Hey Thomas, I think we're all good to go. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you doing? Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for reaching out to Plant-Based News. Before we get started, it'll be good if you could just quickly kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about Autogefhl.
So I'm Thomas from Autogefhl from Germany, and Autogefhl is a very significant car review channel. We do like 30 to 60 minute reviews, give extensive product advisements on those cars each. And we have about 3 million views on YouTube each month, and even more important, 35 years of watch time. So people really digging deep into the subject there. And there we, of course, have the obligation also to give a lot of information about every aspect, about the different cars. And that's, for example, the seat surface is also one major aspect.
Okay, you've just mentioned seat surfaces. I'm really happy you brought this up because you've recently put out an important message to all car CEOs. I'll link that video down below, but in a nutshell, what was your message?
Yeah, so the message I have for the car CEOs, you can also check that separate video there. Thank you for linking to it. Is actually you should start thinking about if it's really necessary to put animal skin on a seat. There's so much different options you have nowadays, which are more sustainable, more animal friendly. And actually, there was one great comment also under our video, which I found so great from the argument that, the car companies, they spend billions, really billions, to make cars more sustainable by, alternative drivetrains, optimizing engines that they consume just a little less, which is, basically good, of course, or, like carbon fiber technologies, really billions of spendings, incredible, effort for sometimes very small results. And then it's too much to ask to replace 4 seats in a car with something more sustainable. That's pretty much the point. And so I really want that they develop more of those sustainable technologies for the car seats. There are so much available, fabric, Alcantara, that's the brand, and so it's microfiber, leatherette, and we have seen different examples already right now. And I really want the automotive CEOs to think about how much cruelty is involved with the animal skin production. And I mean, it's really obvious you cannot do it without harm because there's always killing involved. So we really need to change this.
How do we change this though? I mean, are any car companies at the moment shifting away from leather?
Yeah, that's a good question because, sometimes they're going back and forth a little bit. Volvo, there was the chief designer who said, we have to have a future without leather, but at the same time, they introduced new models which have more leather and less leatherette than before. It's a little bit a back and forth for some brands. We have Tesla, for example, with the Tesla Model X, which the base level is totally vegan. So you get even a leatherette steering wheel and high grade, high class leatherette seating surface. So that's a big step forward. And also almost every big manufacturer has an own leatherette line with an own brand name. For example, Mercedes is called MB-Tex or Artico, BMW called Sensatec, Lexus called New Lux, at Toyota it's called Soft Tech or Soft Touch, I think. So it is actually evolving and people are getting more and more interested in it. When doing interviews, people are not surprised. They say, yeah, of course, we're working on that. They're not surprised at all. They know the issue. They are aware of that. But it's not going fast enough. So especially in higher class premium cars, so much animal skin is still being used, and it's often combined with certain equipment. For example, I get feedback from guys over in the US, and they say, I want a panoramic roof for my Golf GTI, but then I have to take the leather seats, but I don't want them. Why is that the case? And that makes no sense. And after doing our video there recently, we received in a short time over 1,000 comments from people saying, absolutely, that has to be said. I totally support you. And I do not want animal skin on my seats. And that made me realize, I thought, I'm doing the right thing, of course, but maybe it's a niche opinion or so. And now I realize it's not niche at all. it's mainstream. People do not want animal skin on their seats anymore. And it seems like it's really the majority meanwhile. But the manufacturers, obviously big time, have not realized it in a, to a big extent. So there are some changes going on. For example, I had also talks with Mercedes. They say if you ask a dealer to replace the steering wheel with leatherette, they can do that. It's not on the price list. You have to ask them at the dealer when you buy a new car. However, Mercedes offers, for example, a lot of different standard options like fabric trims, and for example in Europe, a lot of leatherettes, so artificial leather trims, especially in the US, and also this mix of microfiber on the inside and leatherette on the outside. That's a perfect mix. Also has a lot of just practical advantages, like doesn't get that hot in summer, doesn't get that cold in winter, and so on. So things are evolving, but there's no real strategy, no real schematic behind this, and not stringent enough. And that is, what you have to change also from the feedback then you get from the customer.
Are there any disadvantages to vegan alternatives?
Yeah, those with the disadvantages to vegan leatherette, for example. So I've heard that pretty often, and I think what's behind it is that in the past there were some very poor and cheap alternatives, which made people think, the genuine thing is the good thing, and the fake one is the bad thing. But that's actually gone now. Did you know, by the way, that the most expensive leather is an artificial one? It's used for boats, for huge yachts, and so because on those huge private boats, you do need something which can be outside and sustain the weather and so on. And so there are more and more high-class alternatives evolving, and you do really need them. And for example, in Tesla Model X, we have a review of that one here. That is such great quality. No one could actually differentiate it. And at the same time, for example, if you think about microfiber stuff or fabric seats, there are so many different variations and alternatives, and they sometimes look even more premium than the animal skin, which wears out pretty fast and then looks like grandma's old sofa. So I think the advantages are growing and growing, and I've also talked about the just practical advantages as for having a good climate when seating in the car. I don't think as this is really improving, but you have to show people, you have to show them, look at that, look at this example. They just have to know, and that's what also I think journalists are for. I'm a journalist also by profession. I think you have to give the information that people are actually able to decide then.
Yeah, I completely agree. We kind of just put the truth out, increase awareness, and then kind of let people make the right decision. I just want to talk about one other thing quickly. Do you know anything about vegan leather made from bio oil?
Yeah, about this oil aspect. Of course, there are also some very, clever people, they say, or think of themselves, who say, wait a minute, if you don't use animal skin, it's petroleum based, you're bad, oil production and so on. And yeah, of course, oil production is not really good. We know that. But first of all, do you want to rate the life of an animal versus CO2? Do you really want to do that? No, actually not. But if you would do that, then you would still see that the animal skin production leads to so much more harm and climate emissions and stuff than if you just artificially produce a seed. However, now the third step, there are also more alternatives evolving. For example, Pinatex, it's based on pineapple leaves, also on mycelium. So when you have fungus, mushrooms, but not the top part, but the lower part, the roots of the mushrooms. You can get artificial leather by those, for example. So there are also more totally, sustainable alternatives evolving. I think that should be the ultimate goal. But of course, it's already a huge step to go from the animal skin to the petroleum-based seeds. No one would seriously consider, hey, you have to stop using plastics in a hospital because it's not sustainable. Everything is made of plastic in the hospital just for, hygiene reasons, for example. And there are so many different aspects where we do use plastic. And there are, of course, better materials than plastic, but the biggest problem with plastic is not really using it. It's about treating the waste. For example, if you use plastic and use it for a very long time and burn it, for example, properly, it's not so much of a problem. The problem is that a lot of plastics are getting just uncontrolled in our environment. This microplastic as well, and that gets in the water and gets then in our blood and so on. But that's a very big topic, for example. And I haven't heard of organic oil production, something like that yet. But there might be also some alternatives evolving there. What I did here actually, what I also meant is this pinatex, so from pineapple leaves, and also those mushroom roots. Those are very interesting as well. And yes, they are also heard that they are also, like with this super meat, like this artificial meat, that you can also grow from stem cells, the leather product. That is obviously also possible. Cork, I do have a cork purse. So cork, from trees, for example, in Portugal, pretty famous. There are also sustainable plantations for that, where you can get the cork, but still let the trees live. So there's a lot to experience, a lot to do. You just have to really start with it.
Yeah, this is so interesting. What can kind of people do to help our mission?
Yeah, first of all, word of mouth is so strong. So just tell your friends and tell your family. Family is sometimes, being vegan a little bit complicated. Tell your friends at least. You just speak about it, or maybe at work, just to create some awareness on this topic. And for example, our special video or this video here, you can just share it on YouTube, Facebook, other social media and stuff. Just help us by sharing, liking, and spreading the word there. That will really help our cause. And I think one crucial aspect is, again, sometimes people say, oh, you are extreme vegan activist, whatever, and I don't feel I would be extreme just because, I take care of other people and, other living beings, other animals. That's not extreme to me at all. It's just, about empathy and compassion. It's just, peace and nothing military alike. But people often misconceive that. And then I also think I would be doing it for me, but that's not at all the case. I would rather just sit back and relax and, enjoy life and, whatever. And that would be easier to me. But when I see such cruelty, which is involved there with, animal products, I think for myself, just the little effort that I would be having. Okay, it's a big effort, but still, even the big effort that I'm having is nothing in comparison to the suffering that those animals endure. And so I think I'm not that important, there are more important things. And if I can just, have a little contribution to make things better, to just save a couple of lives, and then it was, all worth it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been awesome having you on Plant-Based News.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for having me here, and I really enjoyed the interview as well. And thanks again for your work too.